Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures. And today I'm going to be carrying on with a review or animal review of the Zookeepers pack, or the Zookeepers collection pack, or something like that. Forgot the exact name at the top of my head at the moment, but got 8 very cool animals. Well, technically 7, but we got a free animal as well. I'll be covering that today as well. So I've already covered the first half. I've already done the spurred tortoise, the dik-dik, Kirk's dik-dik, the sifaka, the Coquerel sifaka, and the Hamadryas Baboon. Now we're going to be doing with the other few animals, so we're going to have a look at those. So today we're going to be starting with the Markhor, so let's have a look at these wonderful Markhors. So I'll look at the male first, because that's always the most impressive one. So the Markhor, or Capra falconi, or falconry, is a large Capra goat species. So Capra is a type of goat. Native to South Asia and Central Asia, mainly within Pakistan, the Karakoram region, parts of Afghanistan, and into the Himalayas. And it's listed as near threatened since 2015. They're also the national animal of Pakistan, also known as the screwhorn or the screwhorn goat, with the word Markhor coming from the word snake eater, which comes from both Pashto and classic Persian languages. It's actually believed that these guys would accidentally actively kill and consume snakes. And it's believed to come from the snake-like look of their horns, as they kind of curl up as well. But yeah, really cool. So in terms of description, so Markhors will stand at about 65 to 115 centimeters, or about 26 to 45 inches at the shoulder, and are about 32 to 186 centimeters, or 52 to 73 inches long, and weigh between 32 and 110 kilograms, or about 71 to 243 pounds. They have the highest maximum shoulder height among all the species in Capra, so all the goat species, but are surpassed in length and weight by the Siberian ibex. You can see their coat is kind of a grizzled light brown to black color, which is smooth and short in the summer, that goes longer and thicker in winter, and the fur on the lower legs are black and white. You can see they're quite extremely sexual dimorphic, so you can see the males have this really long mane, or kind of like beard, so they've got longer hair on their chin, throats, chest, and shanks. Or the females, will have a look over here at the girls. You can see they've got just a little, goatee, like most other goats have. They're not extreme as the big male Markhor. Females are typically reddish in color with shorter hair, a small black beard, and are maneless. Both sexes, you can see, have this kind of corkscrew-like horns, but the females are much smaller. The horns in males can grow up to about 160 centimeters, or about 83 inches, and up to 25 centimeters, or 10 inches in females, so twice the length. And they do have quite a pungent smell, which is actually surpasses that of the domestic goat, actually, which is pretty interesting. So in terms of their behavior and ecology, the Markhor, and that's not what we wanted to do, the Markhor is adapted to mountain terrain, like many other goat species, and can be found between 600 to 3,600 meters, or 12,000 to 11,000 feet above sea level. They typically like to inhabit scrub forests with oaks and pines and junipers in them. They're also diurnal, so they're typically out during the day and are mainly active during early morning and late afternoon. Their diets will shift seasonally. With spring and summer, they're typically grazing, and then turn to browsing in winter, sometimes even standing on their hind legs to reach high up, to get up there, get up and reach the branches. Their mating season is also during winter, where males will fight each other by lunging, locking horns, and attempting to push each other off balance. And the gestation period, we'll look at the babies while we talk about the gestation period. So once they've mated and they have their babies, all that, their gestation period will last about 135 to 170 days, and usually results in the birth of 1 or 2 kids, sometimes 3, but typically 1 or 2. The Markhors will live in herds, usually comprising of 9 animals, consisting of adult females and their young, with adult males typically be largely solitary. And adult females and kids comprise the most of the population, with adult females making up 32% of the population, while kids make up 31%. Adult males around 19% of the population, with some adults making up 12%, and yearlings, females, 9%. Their alarm call is also very interesting. Resembles the bleating of a domestic goat, so that doesn't sound too unsimilar to everyone. And early in the season, the males and females may be found together in open grassy patches and clear slopes among the forest. Though during the summer, the males will remain in the forest, while the females should climb to the highest rocky ridges available. In spring, the females will stay closer to the cliff. The areas of more rock cover that provide protection for their offspring. And the males will then stay in more highly elevated areas with more access to vegetation to improve their body condition. So in terms of their predators, they are preyed upon by Eurasian lynx, snow leopards, Himalayan wolves, and brown bears. They're the main predators of the Markhor. The golden eagle will eat, been reported eating on young Markhor, but to defend themselves from predators, they do have keen eyesight and a quite strong sense of smell to detect nearby predators, and are typically always in high alert because they live in exposed areas and are quick to flee when they're spotted. So they are quite good at getting away and defending themselves against predators. So there have been multiple subspecies of Markhor kind of described, and they often are based on horn configuration and have been shown to vary greatly, even if they're just confined to the mountain range. So yeah, it's kind of hard to pick and choose. I won't go exactly into the details of different species because I've done that before with mod reviews, because we typically have the Burkham's Markhor. Then this is just supposed to be a generic one, so I won't go too into that. But hunting is a big threat for these guys. So hunting for meat as a means of subsistence or trade of wildlife parts is adding to the growing problem of Markhors being hunted, with poaching being indirect impacts as disturbance, increasing fleeing distance, and resulting in reduction of habitat size, which has been very important in the decline in the Markhor population. The most important types of poachers are seen as local inhabitants, state border guards. The latter usually rely on local hunting guides, and Afghans illegally crossing the border. And poaching causes fragmentation of the population into small islands where the smaller populations can be more prone to extinction. And they're a valued trophy animal because of trophy hunting, because of their big spiral horns. And the Pakistani government does issue several tags to attempt to save the species, but since the introduction has actually seen quite a good rebound. So it's a great example of how trophy hunting and things like that can be help a species. And the continuing decline of the Markhors had finally caught the attention of the international community, so they have luckily been helping out there. So in British India, though, they've actually proved to be quite challenging because people try to stalk them in mountainous terrain, and you have to be a good walker to get up there. Although it's illegal to hunt them in Afghanistan, they have been traditionally hunted by in the Nuzhan and Laghman provinces, and this may have intensified during the War of Afghanistan. But in Pakistan, it's legal to hunt them as part of their conservation process, with expensive hunting licenses available from the Pakistani government to hunt old Markhors, which are no longer good for breeding purposes, like an old one, that's started past its prime, but still looks like a nice, trophy. But in India, it is also illegal to hunt them, but they are poached for food, and their horns, which are thought to have medicinal properties. And they actually have been successfully introduced into private game ranches with a lot of the species as well in Texas. So unlike Aodads, nilgai, ibex and things, they do not have established a sufficient number in free-range wild populations in Texas. Probably a bit too cold for them. And in the terms of the International Conservation Nature, they are believed to be near threatened. They have a relatively small population, the wild population being no more than 6,000 individuals. In the absence of a projected total population decline, and the reliance on ongoing conservation to maintain their present levels means then they're threatened. There are reserves that protect the Markhor. There's few though. Though these reserves do protect and conserve the population, they are poorly enforced and makes poaching common, as well as habitat destruction. So those are the two main ongoing threats that the Markhor face. Though recent studies, because of the conservation efforts, they have actually been doing well and being consistent. The approach begun in the 1900s when no-till hunters were convinced by hunting tourists, to stop poaching Markhors, and local hunter established a conservancy, and that includes two other local organizations, and they would protect but also try to sustainably exploit the Markhor species, try and make some money out of it, but do it sustainably. So yeah, that's pretty cool, and they've done really well, and the species is doing okay. So let's have a look at the Markhor's Zoopedia. I'm not sure what exact subspecies this is based on, but my hypothesis is it could be Burkham's Markhor. It's kind of the one that looks like the most common one and the one that's often seen the most. But it's quite nice, so let's have a look at the Markhor. So luckily they're not considered endangered anymore, so you can see the little isolated populations there. Group size 2 to 12, 1 male up to 11 females. Same. Males will fight for the right to mate. Female herd have age-based hierarchies. Makes sense. Mating system, they're polygamous. Matriarchal, so mature males related to alpha become outsiders. Relation to humans are confident, but guests will flee from them. So size, just over a meter for males on average, and 0.8 meters for females. Life expectancy 14 years, that's pretty good. You see males are quite bigger. 85 kilograms on average for a good male, and 50 for a female. So an age of sexual maturity, about 3 years. That works out about right. Age of sexual sterility, about 12 years. They have about 1 to 2 babies, really 3 per offspring per mating event. Gestation period is about 5 months. I believe that's about 170 days. Interbirth period about 7 months. And they're quite easy to breed in captivity, so that's quite good. And research status, national because they're the largest. Yeah, we've got about that. 3 subspecies of Markhor exist based on the shape of their horns. The dominant subspecies, the Astral Markhor, has flat-faded curly horns. The Kapar Markhor has straight-tied curly horns. These guys have more white curved horns. So I'm not sure exactly which one they're describing there. They haven't specified. And while chewing the cud, Markhor produce saliva that is in dried form collected by locals. And due to beliefs the Markhor's eating snake is sought to use the substance helps cure poisonous snake bites. Oh, that's interesting. And they can live with a takin. How wonderful. We love a good takin. Really, really nice. See, that's another really, really cool one. How beautiful is that? So next up, we are going to have a look at another really cool alpine animal. This is like almost like a faux Highlands pack, but we've got a really, really cute kitty here. We've got the Pallas cat. So let's have a look at these cute guys here. Look how adorable they are. So the Pallas cat, or Autocolobus manuel, also known as the manual, these guys are a small species of wild cat with long and dense light grey fur and rounded ears set low on their head. So the first described in 1776 by Peter Simon Pallas, who observed them around Lake Baikal, and the species has been reported in large regions of Central Asia, and they do have quite a wide range, which is quite cool. So in terms of their taxonomy, we mentioned before, there was believed to be about 2 subspecies, but most of them are kind of been lumped into 2. So there's ones around kind of Central Asia, the Manuel, the species, western northern part of Asia and Iran, and the other one is from the Himalayas to Bhutan. So in terms of their phylogeny, these guys are very interesting relationships. So they are closely related or sister to, they would have diverged from the common ancestor of the Phaneolurus, so things like leopard cats, fishing cats, flat-headed cats, and rusty-spotted cats. They would have diverged from them about 8.55 to 4.8 million years ago, based on nuclear DNA. So that's where they would have actually divided from that group. So they're now their own little genus, which is quite cool. In terms of characteristics, you can see very, very cute. Their fur is a light grey with a pale yellowish ochre and a pale reddish hues. Some hair tips are typically white with some blackish, and its fur is greyer and denser with few markings visible in winter than in summer. The forehead and the top of the head in light grey has kind of these small black spots, as you can kind of see there, which is quite cool. And has 2 black zigzag lines on its cheek running along the corner of its eyes and the jaw joints with its chins, whiskers, and upper lip as well. It has a narrow stripe along its back as well, and several dark traversal stripes along the lower back as well. Its grey tail has typically 7 black rings and a black tip. Its underfur is about 40 millimeters or 6 inches long, and the guard heads are a little bit bigger at 69 millimeters or 2.7 inches. And the fur is quite soft and dense, as they have up to 9,000 hairs per centimeter squared. So in terms of their kind of eyes, you can see their eyes are grey with a yellowish tinge to it. And back at the rim, but they have whitish ears in front of the pinnae, or the ears. And the rounded ears are low on their side, so they can peer on an object and show only a relatively small part of their head. They also have a face that kind of looks look of ferocity and unrest, so they kind of look always grumpy all the time. Their eyes are encircled in white as well, and the iris is yellowish. And the pupils actually contract a small circular disc in sunlight. And among the Felidae, they do have these kind of traits, things with like pumas and cheetahs and things like that. So they have more rounded eyes rather than the slit eyes in a lot of animals. The Pallas cat is not very big. It's about the same size as a domestic cat. With its stocky posture, though, makes it appear, and dense fur makes it look like stout and plush. Their head to body size is about 46 to 65 centimeters, or 18 to 26 inches, with a 21 to 31 centimeters at 8 to 12-inch tail, and it weighs between 2.5 to 4.5 kilograms, or 5 pounds to 9 pounds. With its body being quite stout and a rounded skull, with enlarged cranial parts and rounded zygomatic arches, and its orbits are also large, and they do have small claws. So in terms of their habitat, these guys' range extend from the Caucasus eastward to Central Asia, Mongolia, and up parts of the Tibetan Plateau, where these guys typically will inhabit scrublands, grasslands, rocky outcrops, scree slopes, and ravines in these areas, where there's continuous snow cover is below 15 to 20 centimeters. Though in the southwestern part of their range, they are affected by cold and dry winters and moderate low rainfall in the summer. The typical vegetation they like to live with is scrub and sagebrushes and things like that. In the central part of the range, it is like high plateaus and lots of grasslands and things like that. And the Greater Caucasus region is considered climatically suitable for the Pallas cat, and there was actually individual found in those in the early 1920s. And then in January of 2020, individuals spotted about 140 kilometers farther north in the Tavish province. So it seems there may have been a little one kind of going around there. On the Iranian plateau, they have been encountered near the 1970s, so they have been seen around there, and also Trans-Caspian region as well. So yeah, pretty cool. They've also been found in the Himalayas, so they've got quite a wide range, and even been reported in 2012 in Bhutan. So they're very secretive cats, so luckily we're learning a lot more about where they live and what they're doing, so that's quite cool. In terms of their behavior and ecology, they are solitary. And of the 9 Pallas cat kittens observed in captivity, only the 2 males scent marked by spraying urine. Let's have a look at the other one that's running around. Let's see if we can find one running around. Where are you, little mister? Where are you? Oh. Oh, we'll have to keep on keeping on anyway. Okay. So the Pallas cat uses caves and rock crevices and marmot burrows as shelter. So they do use kind of pre-made burrows. In Central Mongolia, 29 Pallas cats were fed radio collars between June 2005 and October 2007, where they used 101 dens during this time, including 39 winter dens, 42 summer dens, and about 20 dens they use for raising kittens. And the summer and winter dens usually have one entrance at a diameter of about 15 to 23 centimeters, or about 6 to 9 inches. And they resided in their summer dens for about 2 to 21 days, and then their winter dens for 2 to 28 days. Summer and maternal dens were in close to rocky habitats with little direct sunlight, where the winter dens are actually closer to ravines. And looking at the home ranges of 16 females varied from about 7 to 125 kilometers, or about 2 to 48 square miles. And the home range of 9 males was between 20 to 207 kilometers, or about 8 to 79 square miles, and overlapped with those about 1 to 4 females, and partially a little bit with other males. And the size of these home ranges typically decreases in the winter. There is an unprotected area in the central Mongolia where they're mainly crepuscular, and they between May and August, but are active in day during September and November. Pallas cats recorded from 4 study areas in the western Mongolia and Tali Mountains were active during the day, but lower frequency when livestock is present, so they tend to avoid people, especially when there's livestock around. And there's the male over there. We'll have a look at you, because you're quite cute. In terms of their diet, these guys are highly specialized predators of small mammals, which they stalk and catch by ambushing the exits of their burrows. They typically pull out rodents with their paws of shallow burrows, and in Tali Mountains they'll feed on ground squirrels, long-tailed ground squirrels, fat-skulled shrews, Pallas pikas, and bird feathers, and are found near bedding burrows as well, so they eat like that. And other places they'll eat like pikas, steppe pikas, Darien ground squirrels, and the young of red-billed cough. This cat has also been found they eat like Mongolian gerbils, Mongolian silver voles, and the remains of passerines, beetles, grasshoppers, and bandit voles in Mongolia. So they have quite a wide range of foods, typically small mammals, but small birds and insects as well. So a little bit of a varied diet. So let's have a look at the cute little babies now. Let's have a look at the cute little babies. How can I love the cute little babies as we talk about their reproduction. So, we'll talk about the females are typically sexually mature at about the age of a year old, and she's an estrus for 26 to 42 hours, and gestation will last between 66 and 75 days. A male captive Pallas cat housed under natural-like conditions showed increased aggressive and territorial behavior on the onset of breeding season. lasting from September to December. And its blood contains 3 times more testosterone than a non-breeding season, and his ejaculate was more concentrated, which is quite interesting. But in the wild, the female will give birth to a litter of about 2 to 6 kittens at the end of April and late May. And the newborn kittens are fuzzy and their eyes are closed, and they don't really open until 2 weeks of age. A newborn male kitten born at the zoo weighed about 89 grams or 3.1 ounces and measured about 12 centimeters or 1 inch long, and had a 2-inch or 5 centimeter tail. And in central Mongolia, 7 females with kittens were observed using 20 dens for 4 to 60 days, and they were usually under rocks or under marmot burrows, or at least 2 inches. It was quite interesting. And 2-month-old cubs weigh between 500 and 600 grams, and their fur gradually grows longer. And they start hunting about the age of 5 months, and they reach adult size at about 6 to 7 months of age. So in terms of their threats, in China, Mongolia, and Russia, they were once hunted in large numbers for their fur, and more than 10,000 skins were collected annually. Though hunting has typically decreased since the 1970s, and they have become legally protected. However, domestic trade for medicinal purposes actually does continue, and they are still hunted throughout the year. Also, cases of herding dogs killing Pallas cats have been reported, and they've also found traps set for small mammals in Kazakhstan and these regions, and there's also threatened by poaching. Also, the use of the rodenticide bromelidone has actually been believed to impact these animals because, bioaccumulates inside them. But luckily they do have a wide range, but they are negatively impacted by habitat fragmentation due to infrastructure and mining projects. So in terms of conservation, they are considered least concerned because of their wide range and potentially large population. And hunting is prohibited in all these countries except Mongolia, and since 2009 they have been legally protected in Afghanistan, while all hunting and trading in the body parts is banned. And in Turkmenistan, they actually are considered endangered, and in China, they're considered endangered. And in Turkmenistan, they're considered critically endangered due to scarcity of records. Though in captivity, there have been some zoos that had Pallas cats. Between 1951 and 1971, the Beijing Zoo kept 16, and they lived for less than 3 years. And luckily, they've actually started to try and establish a breeding program for the species, but although half the kittens in the member zoos died within the first 30 days, which had the highest mortality rate of any small wild cat. But zoos have managed to kind of get over that, and they're trying to receive them, they're trying to make sudbook, and they've started breeding them. And in 2018, it's believed to be 177 Pallas cats are kept within zoos around Europe, Russia, North America, and Japan, so luckily they're doing better. And there was a female Pallas cat in 2011 that was artificially inseminated for the first time in Cincinnati Zoo, and then in 69 days she gave birth to 4 kittens, with 1 being stillborn. So in some other kind of little facts about these guys, in terms of the etymology, the Manuel is kind of the Pallas cat name and the name for Mongolian language. And the common name Pallas cat was coined by William Thomas Balfour in order of Peter Sims Pallas, who kind of discovered the species. In a popular culture, they've been featured as a meme, a Russian meme called Pet the Cat. And have you heard the meme with the guys holding the cats, like the body is round? That's the Pallas cat. And they've actually become a mascot. So they are really cute because they're so round and fuzzy. So they're a great mascot. Be a really, really cute, definitely a fan of the Pallas cat. Would you look at that? So next up, we're going to have a look at the Zoopedia. So you can see Obercolbus Manuel, really, really cool species. And you can see how wide their range is. You can see from the Caucasus Mountains and right across, Mongolia and into India. Quite a wide range. Group size 1 to 2, so typically live in solitary except for mother and cubs. So you have at least 1 and then 1 to 2. Dominance none. They are promiscuous. They're solitary. They're shy. And guests flee from them because, don't think that's right, because I know everyone would be like, oh, look, you little kitty, and want to pet it, but obviously being a wildcat, you wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, males and females about the same size, 9 years and 2.5 kilograms, so yeah, that works. Age of sexual maturity is about a year. Yeah, that works, though it's probably a little bit too soon, but yeah, it works about a year. Age of sexual maturity is about 8 years. 2 to 5 babies per mating interaction, which is fair enough. Gestation or incubation period is about 2 months, it's about right. And interbirth period is 9 months, and they're easy to breed in captivity. So let's say they're no larger than domestic, but they appear bigger because of their volume of fur. So the generic name for the Pallas cat, Autocolobus, was derived for ugly ears from Greek language, which is interesting. And yeah, we've already kind of Talked about that as well. But yeah, cool. And they don't share any enrichment because they are carnivores, interspecies enrichment. But yeah, really, really cool animal. Definitely love these little guys. How awesome are these? So next up, we have got... This is not an animal from the pack, but this comes with the free pack. So if you guys don't need to buy these animals. Like, literally, they just come with Planet Zoo if you update to the latest update. We've got the Amur leopard, but now we've got the African leopard, which is what everyone's kind of been asking for. So really, really cool. So the African leopard, or Panthera pandus pandus, they are the dominant subspecies of the leopard and are found all across sub-Saharan Africa. But the historical range has become fragmented because of habitat conversion. They've also been reported in North Africa. And there used to be so many different subspecies of leopard, but now they've all kind of been lumped into these found being genetically close to another, and they're kind of only one subspecies, which is Panthera pandus pandus. But there has been some genetic halotypes that have been found, and they seem to have higher diversity than some, like the Arabian leopard. But even though there was let me count actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there was 11 subspecies of African leopard, but now they're all into one because they're so genetically closely related. But in terms of characteristics, they do have quite a variety in coat colour. Depending on location, they can be a pale yellow to deep gold or tawny, and sometimes even black, but they're then painted with black rosettes on their head. Lower limb and belly can be spotted with solid black. Male leopards are typically larger than females, with averaging about 58 kilograms, 128 pounds, with 90 kilograms or 200 pounds being the maximum, with females reaching about 37.5 or 83 pounds on average. So that's our male there. According to Alfred Edward Pallas, black leopards are actually a similar size of lions, and there was a leopard killed that was like 2 meters long, but I'm not sure how true that is. But they are quite sexually dimorphic, with males being larger than females. So 11 adult leopards actually rally collared and in Namibian farmlands. Males weigh between 37 to 52 kilograms, about 8,352 pounds, and then a female was about 24 to 33 pounds. 33 kilograms, or about 53 to 74 pounds, with the heaviest known leopard weighing about 96 kilograms. So in terms of their distribution and habitat, these guys in Africa live in a wide variety of habitats, ranging from grasslands to montane forests and savannas, excluded only really from extreme deserts like the Sahara. They're mostly at risk from semi-desert, where there's scarce resources, often conflict with farmers and livestock. They used to occur throughout most of sub-Saharan Africa, occurring in both rainforest and arid desert habitats. They lived in all habitats with average rainfall above 50 millimeters, or about 2 inches, and can penetrate areas with less than amount of rainfall along river courses. And they've pretty much found all over the place. They've been quite successful in adapting to altered habitats and settled into people as well. Even in the absence of intense persecution. They've often been recorded quite close to major cities too, but already in 1980 they became rare throughout most of West Africa. And they're partially distributed around the place, with kind of like a disjointed distribution, which is interesting. They're also quite rare in North Africa. There's believed to be a relic population that persists in the Atlas Mountains, which is the Atlas, leopard. Though, being how secretive they are, that's very common. We don't have much evidence of that. And there was also one that was found in Ethiopia and another one that was found in Egypt. And it was the first sighting of them since the 1950s. So that's quite interesting. And that was in 2014. So they seem to be kind of very secretive and managing to survive okay. It's just very hard to spot, because leopards can live in cities and people didn't even know. In terms of their behavior, diets and hunting, they are extremely adaptable and pretty much will eat any prey and have a very broad diet. They'll take small prey when large ungulates is common. They've been known to range their prey from dung beetles to adult elands, which can reach up to 900 kilograms. In sub-Saharan Africa, they've at least recorded at least 92 different species of prey in the leopard scats. That includes rodents, birds, small and large antelope, hyraxes, hares, and arthropods. Though they typically like to focus their hunting activity on locally abundant medium-sized ungulates between 20 to 80 kilograms, but opportunistically will take larger prey. So average intervals between ungulate kills range from 7 to 12 to 13 days, and leopards will often hide kills in large trees, which requires great strength. And they've actually been observed hoisting carcasses of young giraffes up to about 125 kilograms, which is 2 to 3 times their weight, up a 19 foot or 5.7 meter tree. So that's quite cool. And it's the Serengeti. They were radio-collared the first time in early 1970s, and their hunting at night was difficult to watch, but the best time observing them was at dawn. Out of the 64-day hunts, only 3 were successful. In their woodland areas, they preyed mostly on impalas, but caught some gazelles in the dry season. Occasionally, they killed warthogs, reedbucks, duikers, stenbocks, blue wildebeest, tow-pied calves, jackals, cape hares, guinea fowl, and starlings. But they were less successful hunting plain zebra, coqs, hartebeests, giraffes, genets, mongooses, hyraxes, and small birds. But they will scavenge as well, and in tropical rainforests they will feed on durkas and primates. And some individuals actually showed they had strong preference for pangolins and porcupines, so they do have quite a bit of variety there. In North Africa, they typically prey on Barbary macaques, and reveal that their primary prey. They would have also, in other places, eat red river hogs, African buffaloes, and cane rats. So yeah, pretty much. There's even been reports of them trying to attack gorillas, but did not catch them. And they've also been observed at eating adult eastern gorillas near Uganda's border. So yeah, they are quite prolific species and pretty much eat whatever they can get their mouths around. But in terms of threats, throughout Africa, the main threats to the African leopard, and also across the other ranges, of other leopard subspecies, is just intense prosecution and habitat conversion. So they will kind of, the places a lot of they live is the Upper Guinean forests are considered to be biodiversity hotspots, but have been fragmented because of local mining and logging activities. Though the impacts of trophy hunting as well has been a big issue, so it's been unclear the impacts that has happened on their populations, things like that, because it seems only males are hunted. And removing excessively high number of males from the population may actually have a kind of a bad effect, as that means there's just less kind of leopards to to roam around and do things. But analysis of leopards show that these guys do have because they're so adaptable and doing okay, and there's a lot of competition with bushmeat hunters as well with them, so they tend to try to exploit form of smaller prey when they're near populated areas. But yeah, they seem to be doing okay-ish, but they are threatened by a lot of those things. Yeah, they are kind of, in some areas, hunting is banned of them, and they are and live in quite a few protected areas, such as the Virunga National Park and Kruger. So they are doing okay in most regards. But yeah, we'll have a look at these cute little cubs. Look how cute they are. How can you not love a little cub? So let's have a look at the African leopard. Let's have a look. So African leopards, so Panthera pandus. We kind of talked a lot about that. You can see their range, most Africa, and then there's some used to live around northern Africa, like with the Barbary lion, the Barbary leopard, the Barbary elephant, all that. They like to live in groups, not groups of 1 to 2, so typically solitary. Males only have 1, females 1 to 2. Dominance none, they are promiscuous, all mature, they're solitary, they're neutral as well, and guests will flee from them, very rightly, because they could probably kill you. Males are slightly bigger, you can see about 65 centimeters tall to short on average, about 60 for females. 15 years, that's about right. 75 kilograms for males and 34 for females. Age of sexual maturity is about 2.5 years, so it's about right. Age of sexual sterility is about 15 years. 2 to 3 babies per offspring. Gestation or incubation period is about 3 months. Interbirth period 32 months. And average breeding captivity. So yeah, that's pretty spot on. Research. We've talked about that. They've likely been extirpated from northern Africa and only the sub-Saharan population survive in its original range. Yeah, they do occur in a melanistic morph where their base colour is black, but the rosettes can be seen in some lightened circumstances. The Zulu people revere the leopard as a noble and courageous and honourable creature, and the language is the Ngawi, I believe they say that. Their phenomenal eyesight that supports their nocturnal hunting behaviours. They can see 7 times better in the dark than humans, so that's quite cool. And being a predator, they don't really share much enrichment with anyone. But yeah, look at these cute little cubs. We'll have a look at these cute little cubs for a minute. As we carry on, look at these cute little guys. How can you not love them? So last but certainly not least, we've got our biggest animals from the pack. Kind of one of the big selling points. We've got the spectacled bear. So that's a really, really cool one I get to talk about. So the spectacled bear, or Tremarctos ornatus. So these guys are also called the South American bear, or the Andean bear, or the mountain bear, or locally known as the Jurumaki or Urumakian uku, I believe we said that. These guys are a species of bear that are native to the Andes Mountains and the northwest and northern of Central South America, and the only living bear species in South America. And they actually, believe it or not, for you paleontology fans, they are the last living member of the short-faced bears, as they were closely related to the extinct Tremarctos florida, kind of the Florida spectacled bear, and the extinct giant short-faced bears like Tortoise and Arctotherium, which became extinct at the end of the Ice Age. So yeah, a little fact for you guys. So in terms of the description, they're the only living bear native to South America, and they are the largest land carnivore in that part of the world, although little than 5% of their diet is actually comprised of meat. Among the South American extant native large animals, it's only the kind of the species of tapir that are heavier than the bear. But in terms of their size, they're a mid-sized species of bear, but you can see their fur is overall blackish in colour, though they may vary from jet black to dark brown, even sometimes with the reddish hue. They also have distinctive ginger or kind of coloured markings around their face, though not all of them have the spectacle marking, but the pale varies, the kind of exact kind of patterns and kind of shape of the markings do vary from individual to individual, so some won't kind of all have this extreme one, so it'll be a little bit more patchy. Just depends on the individual. And actually, it can be a way to distinguish between different bears, because they differ slightly. Males are then also about a third larger than the females, and sometimes 3 times the weight, or twice their weight. Males can weigh between 100 to 400 kilograms, or about 220 to 440 pounds, or females weigh between about 35 to 82 kilograms, or 77 to 181 pounds. Head to body length can typically range from 120 to 200 centimeters, or about 47 to 58 inches. The mature males do not measure less than 150 centimeters, or about 59 inches. On average, adult males weigh between 115 kilograms, or 254 pounds, and females about 65 kilograms. Thus they rivaled actually the polar bear as the most sexually dimorphic species of bear. A beast male in captivity weighed about 222.5 kilograms, or about 491 pounds, and their tail is actually quite short. They have a mere 7 centimeter tail, is about 2.8 inches, and their shoulder height's about 60 to 90 centimeters, or about 23 to 35 inches. And compared to other living bears, you can see they've got quite a more rounded face and relatively short. Compared to other living species of bears, they have a more rounded face with a relatively short and broad snout. And in some extent species in the subfamily, extinct species, the facial structure is thought to be an adaptation to their carnivorous diet, but these guys are again mostly herbivores, so they, despite that, so they may just be a relic of what they used to be eaten. But yeah, they've got that relatively. So they're like a bone crushing bear, but these guys, kind of like stuff it. We're going to be herbivores for the most part, and they do have quite an extensive sense of smell. So in terms of their distribution and habitat, despite some rare spilling over into the eastern Panama, spectacled bears are mostly restricted to certain areas of northern and western South America. They can be found in western Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and northwestern Argentina. And their range is only about 200 to 650 kilometers wide, but is more than 4,600 kilometers long. As I mentioned, they're also found typically pretty much only in the Andes Mountains. Before spectacled bear populations became fragmented over the last 500 years, they had a reputation for being quite a varied species and quite adaptable, living in all sorts of different habitats, including cloud forests, grasslands, dry forests, and scrublands or scrub deserts. With a single spectacled bear population on the border of Peru, inhabits as great as range habitats as the world's polar bears or brown bears now occupy. And the best habitats for spectacled bears are very humid or humid montane forests, with these cloud forests occurring about 500 to 1,000 meters above sea level, which is quite cool. And generally, the wetter the forest, the more smooth species that can support bears. And occasionally, they can reach altitudes as low as 250 meters, though typically found below 1,900 meters. And they can even range above the snowline sometimes, so as I mentioned, they're quite varied habitat. But nowadays, the areas of their distribution is affected by people, mainly because of habitat destruction and degradation, hunting and fragmentation of these populations, as this fragmentation is mainly found in areas like Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Argentina, which represents several problems for their population as they become isolated. They're more vulnerable to hunting, and they lose genetic diversity, and things like that. In terms of their naming and etymology, as I mentioned, the spectacle bear refers to the light colouring of the chest and, neck and face that can look like spectacles, which is quite cool. Well, actually have a look. That's the female. Have a look at the male. He's probably got to have a different colour to his face. So you can see kind of the difference there. You can see his is not as extensive, which is quite interesting. And a little bit of their phylogeny. Looking at their DNA, as we mentioned, they split from the other ursines, other bears, about 5.7 million years ago, and they're related to the extinct, giant short-faced bears and things like that. So, in terms of their behavior and diet, they are one of the 4 species of extant bear species that are habitually arboreal, along with both species of Asian and American black bears and the sun bear. And in Andean forests, they may be active during both the day and night, but they actually, in the Peruvian desert, they will bed down under vegetation during the day. The continued survival among humans is actually dependent mostly on the ability to climb even the tallest trees, and they usually will retreat in the presence of humans, often by climbing trees. Well, once in the tree, they will build a platform to aid in concealment, as well as rest and store food on. Although they're solitary, they tend to isolate themselves. They are not territorial, and they've even been reported feeding in small groups when there are abundant food sources. Males will typically have a home range of about 23 kilometers during the wet season and 27 during the dry season, with females having on average home about 10 kilometers during the wet season and 7 kilometers during the dry season. When encountered by humans, they will react in a docile but cautious manner. Usually the intruder is seen as a threat to the mother's cub as and are endangered. So they will protect the cubs, They are, like other bears, they are very protective of their young and will attack poachers. There's only been one reported human death from the spectacle bear, the which, while it was being hunted, and already shot. And the only predators of cubs seem to be cougars and possibly male bears. And these bears appear to avoid jaguars, but jaguars have considerably different habitat preferences. They do not really overlap, just so they don't really encounter each other. Though generally the only threat they have is humans. The longest living captive bear as well lived at the National Zoo in the US, lived for 36 years and 8 months. Though the lifespan has not been studied in the wild, they are believed to commonly live about 20 years or more, unless they are kind of killed early by humans. Also, like the panda, which is quite interesting, they are one of the more herbivorous species of bears, with only about 5 to 7% of their diet consisting of meat. The most common foods these bears include like cactus, bromeliads, palm nuts, bamboo hearts, orchard buds and fallen fruit, also moss and unopened palm leaves. They also peel tree bark to eat the nutritious second layer, and much of this vegetation is tough and digest, and they're actually one of the few species that can, in their range, to eat these food sources. Because they have such large jaw muscles and shorter muzzles, actually slightly surpassing the relative size of the red giant panda. So they're able to break into these plants. And not coincidentally, both species are known for eating tough fibrous plants. So these guys are quite good at that, very similar to what the red giant panda is. And besides the giant panda, these are perhaps the most herbivorous bear species. They will eat things such as sugarcane, honey, and maize. But animal prey is usually quite small, but they have been seen attacking on adult deer, llama, domestic cows, and horses. They actually have been caught trying to catch an adult mountain tapir, perhaps nearly twice its own body mass, and adult horses and cattle have been killed by spectacle bear even heavier. The animal prey is typically like rabbits, mice, rodents, birds, arthropods, and carrion. They have been, as we mentioned, occasionally accused of killing livestock and cattle, though some bears have become habituated into cattle. They're more likely to eat carrion, and some farmers may actually accuse them for killing them. Due to the fear of loss of stock, they may actually be killed on sight, which is a little bit sad. In terms of the reproduction, we'll have a look at the cute little bear cubs. How can you not love a cute little bear cub? Look at this cute little guy. How adorable. So most of the information available about the reproduction of the species is found through captive animals. In captivity, their mating is concentrated between February and September, according to the latitude, and in the wild, it may actually occur almost any time of the year, but kind of peaks between April and June. At the beginning of the wet season, with the ripening of fruits. The mating pair is often together for 1 or 2 weeks, during which they copulate multiple times, and then she goes off and does her own thing. In the wild, births usually occur during the dry season, between December and February, where captivity can occur all year. The gestation period is about 5.5 to 8.5 months. For 1 to 3 cubs may be born, with 4 being rare and 2 being average. The cubs are born with their eyes closed and weigh between about 300 grams. about 11 to 12 ounces. And although this species does not give birth during its hibernation cycle, like modern bears or northern bear species, births usually occur in a small den, and the female will wait until the cubs can see and walk before she leaves them. This occurs about 3 to 4 months after birth. Females also grow more slowly than males, and the size of the litter is actually positively correlated with both the weight in the female and the variety and abundance of food sources, which can actually be quite predictable. The cubs will often stay with the female for 1 year before striking out on their own, and this is related to the mother's time mothers breastfeed, which is about a year, but keep providing maternal care for another year. Breeding maturity is estimated to be reached about 4 to 7 years old on both sexes. It's only for captive bears. And females usually give birth for the first time at about 5 years old, and their fecundity is shorter than the males, who are fertile pretty much all their lives. Some that is in favour of the substance of bear populations is longevity, so they're able to raise two cubs and it contributes as population replacement. In the wild, they can live an average of about 20 years. So yeah, we're going to now talk about the threats of these bears. They are considered vulnerable, as we get into, so we'll talk about all the kind of threats that they face. So in terms of threats, let's see if there we are. It's you sitting there. So in terms of threats, they are threatened due to poaching and habitat loss, agricultural expansion and illegal mining, though other poaching may be big things such as trophy hunting, the pet trade, trying to catch little baby cubs, religious and magical beliefs, and natural product trade, and also conflict with humans. Trophy hunting was actually quite popular during the 19th century, and also there were people trying to take pet bears, for the aristocracy at the time, Ecuadorian aristocracy. And now, because there's still isolated reports of captive bears being confiscated, and they usually must be kept in zoos afterwards. Oh, look at that cute little interaction. Oh, so cute. There's also religious or magical beliefs, maybe like a motivation for them killing them as well. Gallbladders are valued for traditional Chinese medicine and can fetch a high price on the market. Another thing as well, conflict with livestock and people killing their livestock. That's another big issue. And the intensity of poaching can create ecological traps, and the attracted areas of high habitat quality can also be high as poaching, which is quite sad. But yeah, sadly, there are two views of the bear. There are some people that like to live far from the bear and usually like charismatic symbols of the wilderness, not aggressive, mainly vegetarians. But other than they see them as like predators of cattle and things like that, must be hunted and things like that. But luckily, the ICN has kind of taken that. They've considered them vulnerable and trying to help them. So they're trying to kind of expand and implement conservation land to try and help the species, kind of join back up and do things. Greater species level research and monitoring of these threats and trends. More concentrated management in current conservation areas. Stewardship programs to help educate the local communities on how good these bears are and how to deal with these bears living with them. And there's like lots of governments and NGOs and things like that trying to help. Such as the conservation actions in Venezuela date back to the early 1990s, trying to protect and teach people about bears, reducing risks and maintaining populations, things like that. And in terms of protected areas, they are doing well, though it's only estimated about 18% of their range is protected, and highlighting that many of them are small and that they can't really support. Many of them are too small to support bear populations, so maybe combining them and trying to support large bear populations. But there's other conservation strategies that have been suggested, like protecting high-quality habitat, try conflict management, mitigate human impacts on protected areas, sustainable land diversity, maintaining bear population connectivity so they can move around, trying to redesign roads and how they could be more interconnected to create like wildlife bridges and things like that. Introduced criteria to benefit bears and things like that, so that's quite cool. And in Ecuador, they have been kind of spotted. They live in the cloud forest. About 1/3 of this area is protected, so likely that population is doing pretty well. But due to this land use and conversion as well, important amounts of habitat has been lost. They have lost habitat, and they've suffered about 40% of their original distribution. And due to land use conversion and agricultural use, increased amounts of these bears habitat has been lost, and they kind of become into patchy habitat. So that's not a good thing. But yeah, in popular culture, we'll talk about if you ever heard of Paddington Bear. He's a spectacled bear from Peru, though he doesn't look like one at all. And Stephen Fry kind of actually distributed a book on these guys and kind of talked about these bears. But yeah, quite cool. So let's have a look at the Zoopedia. So your population, about 2,500 to 10,000. That's probably about right. You can see their good range there, quite a wide range, long range too, so the Andes up there. Population, 1 to 2, 1 each. Dominance none. They are promiscuous, solitary, neutral with humans that don't care, and I guess will flee from them, fair enough, because it's a bloody bear. Size, 83 centimeters tall at the shoulder and 66. That's about right. 25 years is both for these guys. Males, 150. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's what it said in the Wikipedia, and then 57 for the females. Age of sexual maturity is about 6 years. Sexual sterility about 25 years. Number of offspring 1 to 2. Yep. So that's kind of average up to 4. Incubation period is about 7 months. Incubation period 70 months, and reproductive is average. So let's see. They're the last remaining short-faced bear with a later related genuses going extinct 12,000 years ago. That's right. That's also right. The scientific name for the spectacled bear's genus, Tremarctos, is made up of the words whole bear because they have a distinct hole in their upper arm bone or the humerus. That's quite interesting. And yeah, they don't share it with anyone. So yeah, brilliant. So as I mentioned in the last episode, this is probably going to be the last pack for Planet Zoo. Mainly my clincher for me is that releasing this animal early, so the African leopard early, so kind of wiping their hands of Planet Zoo at the moment, so finishing up a lot of their games. As you've got Planet Coaster coming soon, and also Jurassic World Evolution 3, which would be quite cool. But yeah, this is a good send-off pack. A lot of animals people have really been wanting, especially the baboon. The sifaka is another good one. But yeah, there's so many animals in the world. You can keep this game going for 10 years and still have lots of really, really cool animals to put in this game. But yeah, it's bloody awesome. I'm definitely a big fan of that, and really cool. Frontiers knocked it out of the park with all these animals, especially like the sifaka. I like how it hops around, and like seeing the bear as well. Spectacled bears are quite cool. They're kind of underrated, but nice to have pretty much all the bears. The only bears we're missing now is like the American black bear, pretty much. But yeah, I really, really, really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to hit the little bell icon to get notified about anything. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.